I'm LaDonna Lockhart. I'm here today with Phil Treadwell. Phil, walk me through a couple of things. I know that you have your M1 Academy. Tell me a little bit, very first and foremost, what M1 Academy is.
M1 Academy is a coaching program for mortgage and real estate professionals. And our mission is to help people execute and perform at the level they're capable of. And it's not our job to show people what they're capable of. It's our job to help them achieve the goals that they have for themselves. M1 stands for mindset first. I don't believe that mindset's the only thing that's going to make someone successful, but it is the most important thing. Our mindset controls our attitude and our actions. And those are the only two things that we can actually control. We can't control our partners. We can't control our clients. We can't control the market. But what we can control is what we do and how we respond to things. And so we're very, very interested in helping people find the blind spots, find the strategy that's going to help them become successful. I don't think there's 7 steps to success or here's the 5 things you need to do. That strategy is different for everyone. We're interested in finding the right mix of lead generation activities, of attraction marketing and networking that's going to allow someone to have a long-term sustainable business. So we do that through group coaching programs, large group and small group. We have one-on-one coaching programs. We do workshops. We have a whole member portal with a lot of resources. And our job is to add value to people so they can go add value to others.
Let me ask you this because you spurred two questions in my head right off the bat. So, one, I know mindset is everything. Everything. We had the pleasure actually of talking yesterday, and I told you like the shirt that I was wearing was so that I could get into badass mode because I woke up just not feeling great. And sometimes you have to take those small incremental steps just to shift your mindset. What is something that you do every day to get your head right?
So there's a lot of things that I do every single day to get my head right. One of the core
Lay them on me.
foundations of our core coaching program is around daily habits and non-negotiables. And the reason these are so important is our daily habits allow us to create a routine. It allows us to proactively attack the day. We have our calendar, we have our daily habits, we have our non-negotiables, and we can proactively go through the day. And we can lay our head at the pillow at night knowing even if we didn't get the results we wanted, it wasn't because we didn't do the work. And I challenge people to find daily habits through 5 categories. We call them F5: faith, family, finance, fitness, and focus. And an easy way to remember it is spiritual, mental, physical, emotional, financial. How do you find a couple things in each of those areas to move the needle? And again, you have to have a North Star. What is it you're trying to accomplish? Who's the ideal version of you? And reverse engineer that into milestones so that you have initial goals. The problem is people think activity is the goal. If the goal is to put out a video on social media once a week or once a day, that's a goal. That's not the activity. So the daily habit needs to be to record a video or to write a video script. Because if you wrote a script, you're going to record the video. If you record the video, you'll send it to someone to edit for you. And if you have a finished video, you're going to post it. So it's around the activities. But to directly answer your question, I have about 16 daily habits that I try to achieve on a daily basis, but 4 of them are non-negotiable. Regardless of what's happening in my day, I have to do those things. I typically wake up really early. I go to the gym. I start on the treadmill. When I'm on the treadmill, I'm listening to podcasts. I'm posting content. I'm saying affirmations. I'm taking some quiet time. Then I'll go and lift. Once I've done all that, I don't want to go home and eat a donut. I want to drink a protein shake. And what happens whenever you talk about, like, the book Atomic Habits talks about stacking habits. What we talk about is stacking wins, because every time you make a right decision and you take action, that's a win. And our mind only distinguishes between wins and losses, but not how big they are. So if you start stacking wins at the beginning of the day, you've now created momentum. So if your first appointment, just you absolutely bomb it, or the first thing you do just goes really poorly, our mind's like, well, that's a loss, but you made your bed this morning. That's a win. They cancel each other out. You still have that momentum. And that momentum leads to more motivation. We get
Ew.
excited when we check stuff off of a list. We get excited whenever things are happening. And I use an easy example that's kind of funny. In Texas, I live in Dallas, Texas. We love our queso. So if I'm heating up a bowl of queso in the microwave, sometimes you leave it in too long and it boils over. I'm like, dang it, I got to clean off that glass plate in the middle. And, while I'm in here, I'm going to clean out the microwave, and I guess I'm going to wipe the, counters down around it. Next thing I know, I'm like cleaning the whole kitchen and looking to touch up the paint on the walls, right? Momentum leads to more motivation. Or you walk through the garage on a Sunday, arrange something on a shelf, and 4 hours later, you've cleaned the whole garage. We can trick our mind into getting motivated, into taking action by just starting simple daily habits that we do. So I listen to podcasts, I read books, I say affirmations, I reach out to a certain number of people every day, I post a certain amount of content, all of those things so that I know at the end of the day, even if I didn't get results, it wasn't because I didn't do the work. And so that momentum creates motivation. But the other thing it does is it creates confidence. They realize that those little wins move the needle much more than the losses do. So those people that walk around with swagger, that just like they look like they own the stage or own the room, that's not because it's a God-given trait. Confidence is not a personality trait. Confidence is a skill that we learn. And we learn that by going through and stacking those wins and realizing we're doing the work. And that's what creates the confidence to go do more.
Yeah, amazing. I could not agree more. And that is so poetic in the way that you put it and the way that you walk us through. I have to tell you something that I found that is hugely helpful and beneficial with that. My business partner is the best about celebrating the small wins. I had never done that before. And to me, if it wasn't hitting some huge milestone, it was like, oh, I got to work harder. I got to get this in there. And he's always just like, oh, no, we were able to, I don't know, get the little mini fridge installed today.
That's
That's
right.
a win, right? And it really does shift your mindset. So thank you for that. That is phenomenal.
He's spot
How
on.
how did you know? Because I know being a coach wasn't necessarily your background. How did you know that this was the right calling for you? Because you've obviously found your purpose in life.
Yeah, I didn't know. To be transparent, there's a good friend of mine, Bill Hart, who's been a longtime coach, and he used to talk about 10,000 hours, 20,000 hours in the coaching chair. And I remember teasing him one time. I'm like, that sounds horrible. Like I don't have any
Mhm.
desire to go be a coach. I think what happened for me was as I went through my career as an originator, a branch manager, area, regional, national director, as I went through the steps of my career, I started realizing the things that I really enjoyed, things that brought fulfillment and not just success. And I went back to origination for a short period of time in 2022, whenever things were really difficult, because I didn't want to be a talking head in the industry that hadn't done it recently, that wasn't relevant. And I wanted to also prove that a lot of the strategies that I was talking about on my podcast and that I was trying to teach the team that worked for me within a company, prove to them that these things are what's going to keep you relevant and create success. And we had quite a bit of success in a very difficult market in a short period of time. And that led to people reaching out saying, what are you doing? Right? The industry is losing ground and you're growing. And so I started a series of workshops that were very tactical and really unpacked, here's how to do everything that we did. Here's how, what to do. And people were getting results, but not at the level that I felt like they should have. And that's when I realized I underestimated the mindset piece of it. It wasn't about just going and doing the tactical things. It was how we approached it. It was the mindset we had, the attitude that we took with it. And so that was really the genesis of where M1 Academy came from. And what we originally were going to do was very different than what we've actually done. And I kind of use the analogy that right now we're just kind of building the plane while we're flying it. We don't know exactly what it is, the long-term vision. I mean, we have a North Star of where we're going, but it's really about adding value to people. If our clients or if people out there say, this is what we're struggling with, or this is some value that we need or something we need help with, we're going to try to step in and fill that void. But I do know the reason I'm so passionate about mindset is every single professional success on any level that I've had, I can typically tie it to a coach or mentor that's taken their experience and imparted it to me in wisdom. I tell people all the time with coaching, we don't have the magic pill the silver bullet, the 7 steps to success. There's nothing that I'm going to do for someone as a coach that they couldn't learn on their own or figure out on their own in time. My job as a coach is threefold. It's to shorten that learning curve. It's to help you identify blind spots and to hold you accountable to the things that you want to be held accountable to. That's what a coach is supposed to do. And I've had so many men and women, both in my personal and professional life, that have done that for me. It's just something I'm passionate about of this is how you achieve goals. This is how you become successful in different areas of your life.
I didn't grow up athletic by any means. I had never actually had a coach. And it wasn't until much later in my life that I actually watched a friend of mine who is also a professional coach. He focuses more in other industries, but watching the way that he conducts himself and the way that he fosters success in the people around him, in his coaching groups, etc. It was so eye-opening and inspiring to me, and you nailed one of the elements that I hadn't really considered, which was accountability. The accountability. Accountability, I feel like almost gets a bad rap because it kind of feels icky at first, where
Yes.
you're like, oh, I don't know, I have to actually report back on these things. But accountability can be a game changer, an absolute game changer. What do you think with your approach? What do you think is that differentiating factor that kind of sets your style apart?
That's a great question. First of all, I have to say that we don't inherently want to be held accountable. People, like you said, it makes you feel icky. We don't like accountability. We like what happens on the other side of accountability. When we stay disciplined, we like what we get from it, but we don't like that process. Whenever our one-on-one coaching clients first join the one-on-one coaching program, we call it our elite program. When they sign up for elite, one of the first things I do is I give them a package of what we call immersion documents. And it's a mixture of them doing a SWOT analysis, them going and doing a life wheel, them answering some questions, and then talking about areas of focus. And we ask different questions in similar ways because typically when people are done, we find some trends of here's really what they're looking for in coaching through the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, their key areas of focus, the way they answer questions. But one of the questions in there that I kind of bury is there's really two. If there was one thing that was going to keep you from achieving your goals, what would it be? And the one right below it is, how do you like to be held accountable? If you talk about sports, I did grow up playing a sports. I said my dad was a builder. He also played college baseball. So I grew up with a hammer in one hand and a baseball in the other. So I always played sports growing up, played through high school, had some offers to play college, but the college I wanted to go to, I wasn't good enough to play at. So I kind of let that go. But for me, I don't even love being called a coach because when I think about a coach in an athletic sense, it's someone that has a set of plays, that has an exact way they want something done, and they put people in place to execute on their plan. Well, that's kind of the opposite of what I do. What I do is I take someone and find their plan, their playbook, and I help them create a strategy for them to achieve it. And so, in that vein, I think that if you show people that they can achieve the goals that they have for themselves and create belief, that's what's going to make it okay to hold them accountable, especially the way they want to be held accountable. In sports, your accountability was typically negative motivation, but I don't know the exact number. It's in the 90 some odd percent of people do not respond to negative motivation. You can't tell someone how bad they did at something and then get them to do better at it in most instances. But what you can do is encourage them or let them know that this is the standard that you've set for yourself, right? We don't actually hit our goals all the time, but we always hit the standard that we set. So if we're not hitting the standard, that's not our true standard. So I have people tell me what standards that they have, and then I hold them accountable to that. Because I was told a long time ago, a good friend is not someone that just accepts you for who you are. A good friend is one that holds you to the standards that you set for yourself. So that's what I want to do. Now, I'll give you a funny example. one of my clients, he wrote on there when I said, how do you want to be held accountable, or how do you most effectively like to be held accountable? He put, with a baseball bat upside the head wrapped in barbed wire.
Well, much,
And
but
right,
if it
exactly.
works for him.
What I understood is he wanted it pointed. So in those first few coaching calls, when he kept saying the same thing or making the same excuse, I literally told him, dude, you're just making excuses, and you've made him for 3 calls in a row. You're wildly successful, and you're now using that as an excuse to not go do the things you know you need to do. But in that same call, we found something that was about 90 days out that he really wanted to do. And we were able to recreate his personal life and his business around some habits and some non-negotiables because of this thing 90 days down the road. So it's really, accountability has to be in the same conversation as belief. No one will stay disciplined. No one will let you hold them accountable to something that they don't have the belief that they can achieve. And I ask people whenever I speak, if I said that in 3 years, you're going to make $1 million a year, or have $100 million a year volume business, or have $100,000 a month in passive income, or the man or woman of your dreams, or whatever this big goal is, if you're for sure going to have it in 3 years, but you have to do these 4 or 5 things every single day of that 3 years to get it, would you do it? Everyone's like, well, yeah, of course I would. See, that's what we're giving up by not doing those 3 or 4 or 5 things every single day, because we don't have the belief that it'll happen to us. Because in my example, I said, you're for sure going to have it. But if without that certainty, without that belief, people won't take action. And so my job as a coach is to find things that they believe that they can accomplish, even if it stretches them a little bit, and then give them a strategy to go accomplish it. Because like we said earlier, those wins create more motivation. I had a client that his stretch goal for the year was 15 million. Well, he closed 22 million that year. And so the conversation was, what the next year? Well, probably 24. No, your goal should be 30 or 36, right? There's the famous quote, the danger for most lies not in aiming too high and missing it. It's aiming too low and hitting the mark. So there is a balance there of creating the belief, but also making sure that we stretch ourselves so that we go do more.
That is definitely a mind shift. And the way that you explain it, it really does make it set in. So, thank you for that. You mentioned something earlier that I want to circle back to. You said attraction coaching. Correct me if I'm missing it.
Attraction
That
marketing.
thank you. Thank you. What do you mean by that?
Yeah,
Can you
great question. So
expand?
I think a lot of people, especially when we talk about tactics for mortgage and real estate professionals, you've
Mhm.
got the school of thought of, well, you need to call 100 people a day, or you need to cold call, this, or do this many of that. I always get the question of how many or how much, like how many do I need to do of this? How much do I need to do of that to get the result? And I think that's the wrong strategy. And then you have the other school of thought that says, well, I'm just going to post a bunch of content on social media. I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to do all these things, and the phone's just going to ring, and I'm going to get a bunch of inbound stuff. And I think that's the wrong strategy. People will get results on both sides. What I think the winning strategy is taking your outbound lead generation activities, sending your DMs, your text messages, your phone calls, the one-on-ones. You've got to do that, but you also have to pair that with attraction marketing, meaning you've got to do stuff on social media. You've got to be putting content out there so that people know not just what you do, but who you are. So I talk a lot and coach a lot and speak a lot around marketing, because marketing is simply getting someone's attention. Hard stop. Sales is a completely different thing. Marketing is simply getting someone's attention. Once you've gotten their attention and create rapport or create a relationship, then you can create a call to action to create a customer. But those are 2 different muscles. But effective marketing is taking that attention and balancing it with trust. I could light myself on fire and put it on TikTok and probably create a whole lot of attention, but I've not created any trust that people want to do business with me. But you have a lot of really good, trusted professionals that are capped at the amount of business they can do because not enough people know about them. So what we teach is, how do you create an attraction marketing strategy to stay top of mind? Because it will create more effectiveness in your lead generation activities. If you reach out to a realtor that you've never talked to, but they happen to see you on social media, you're no longer a perfect stranger. You're now some type of an acquaintance. They're at least familiar with you. And so those are two parts. And the third part is your networking. You want to get and meet as many people as possible. And you and I have had conversations about this in the past, specifically whenever you were on my podcast. If you meet a ton of people, that's going to give you a ton of opportunities to reach out in your lead generation activities, as well as to connect with on your attraction marketing. And so it's about the combination of both, because the lead generation activities, making 100 phone calls, will get you short-term results, but it's not sustainable. And the attraction marketing efforts of posting a bunch of content on social media, that's a longer curve to where people actually start reaching out. So what we teach is a combination of all of these things, because it's not simply about just doing one thing. You have to do all of them to stay relevant in this market.
How do you help inspire people to stay authentic to themselves while still competing in a TikTok era, though? I mean, because you're right, you could light yourself on fire and all of a sudden you'd have millions of views, but maybe you have really insightful information on how to help veterans, on how to help first-time homebuyers, and no one really cares because it's not sexy, it's not vibrant.
Right.
What do you do to help kind of keep people motivated to stay so true to themselves to make attraction marketing really work for them?
Yeah. So it's a simple formula. I call it the marketing formula. The first step of the marketing formula, there's 3 steps. The first one's to identify who your audience is. Who's your target market? Who are you trying to reach? I don't care what type of marketing it is. This will work with all 3. Who's your audience? Who's your intended market? The second step is, what's the value that you're going to provide? What problem are you solving for them? And then the third step is, what's the most effective medium to deliver that message to that audience? So I think the more direct answer to your question is, people pay for solutions to their problems. They pay with their time, they pay with their attention, they pay with their engagement on social media, and yes, they pay with money. So when you think about doing content on social media, for example, you know that you're going to use social media, so you've got that part of the formula. You probably have a topic that you want to talk about. So then you have to identify who's the audience that this is going to be most relevant to. Now, you don't have to boil the ocean coming up with super complex business ideas and problems to solve and things to share. If you think about someone who's sitting in a doctor's office waiting room, anyone that's gone to the doctor frequently, right? You show up 15 minutes before your appointment, right, to fill out the crap that hasn't changed from the last time you were there. And then your appointment time comes, like, they're going to call me back any second. They don't. Then 15 minutes later, 30 minutes later, however long it is, when you're in that environment, you're frustrated. No one picks up their phone to scroll social media and is like, damn, I hope the loan officer gives me the definition of amortization, right? No, they want to escape their environment. The problem they have is they're going to social media to be entertained, to be informed about something, to learn something. If you give them something that solves that problem, they'll pay you with their attention. They'll pay you with their time. So if we remember that people pay for solutions to their problems, the connection with people becomes easy. If you are trying to reach people that want to invest in real estate, talk about different ways that people can start investing in real estate, to house hack, to do an Airbnb or VRBO, to give them some strategies that are relevant to them, or identify the demographic of people that you think is most likely going to be your audience for real estate investors and figure out what season of life that they're in. This is super important that you get really specific on your audience, because if you just say first-time home buyers, well, the average age of first-time home buyers is around 36, 37, which is an older millennial, right? There's 50 million millennials in the United States right now between 27 and 42. 50 million, only half of them own a home. And say 10% are precluded from owning a home for qualifying reasons. You still have 20 million people between 27 and 42 that are probably going to be entering the home buying market. Well, you've got to get specific, because older millennials and younger Gen Xers are at a completely different place in life than younger millennials and older Gen Z. So the type of content, the type of information, the type of solutions and value you provide are going to be very different. The platforms that they're on are very different. So the way to get people inspired to stay relevant is just be true to who you're trying to reach, what you're talking about, and make sure that if you put something out, it's something that solves a problem. But it doesn't have to be a complex problem. It can be entertaining. Now, lighting yourself on fire is probably not entertaining to most people. Might be to some, right? There might be some morbid there, but if you document your life, share who you are, not just what you do, people are naturally voyeurs. That actually is valuable. We want to like create this whole expertise and this huge shtick around what we do, and we forget that people do business with people they like. People do business with other people. Business has been done, is being done, and will always be done on relationships. Well, those relationships are about things in common. Well, if they don't know anything about you, you can't find anything in common. So we've got to be talking about these things, and it's just about going out and taking action and then finding out what works and then leaning into that.
I really like assigning almost a quantitative measure to attention. I think so, like you mentioned on your podcast, we talked a little bit more about this. So if people are watching this, I highly encourage you to go seek that out. Um, but you made a Gary Vee reference yesterday. And I think that's probably someone that we have in common. And, his saying of attention is the number one commodity. It really is. And if you can capture that, what you do with it really does need to be honed in from there, but
Yes.
it's getting to that place. One
Right.
final question, because you've already been so generous with your time. The saying behind you, be
Mhm.
uncommon.
Yeah.
What is that?
I'm finishing a book right now called What the Uncommon Have in Common. And it's essentially tactics, mindset, habits of truly successful people, entrepreneurs, people in the mortgage and real estate industry. What I found through recording hundreds of podcast episodes, being on a couple of hundred other podcasts, being able to learn from, be coached by, and just meet really, truly highly successful people, they all have things in common. There's things that they do. There's things that they think. There's these commonalities, but these are uncommon people. They're the people we all aspire to be. So again, the book that we're finishing is What the Uncommon Have in Common, and a slogan that we're pulling off of that is go be uncommon. Most of the time, whether it's in marketing and sales or whether it's just things in everyday life, you want to be where other people aren't. We don't want to follow the masses. We don't want to follow conventional thinking. So it's about being uncommon, go and being one of those uncommon people that have these tactics, these mindset, these habits in common with each other.
Amazing. Well, talking with you over the past couple of days has been such a delight. Genuinely,
Likewise.
you have just been a dream to work with and conversate with. If people aren't familiar with where to find your specific channels, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm very easy to find on social media. It's just at Phil Treadwell. My website's philtreadwell.com. You can find stuff about M1 Academy, speaking, podcasting, all that stuff there. And if you want to go directly to my podcast channel, it's just mmepodcast.com. That stands for Mortgage Marketing Expert. So mmepodcast.com. And you just mentioned Gary Vee. I had the opportunity to go to New York at VaynerMedia and interview Gary. It's one of our most listened to podcast episodes, and hopefully people find value in it.
I didn't know that. I'm going to go seek that out because I've been listening to your podcast. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
So I'm going to jump in there and go find that episode. Thank you again for being here with me today. I'm sure we'll chat again soon.
Thank you.